The VapePassion Show, episode 40. Welcome back to the VapePassion Show. This is episode 40. I'm recording this on Sunday, October 29th. It's the weekend before Halloween, and as a parent of a young child, I've been really busy with Halloween events. My daughter had Halloween run yesterday. She was signed up for the quarter mile, but she loves these runs so much that when she finished that quarter mile, she started crying because she wanted to run some more. So we actually let her do the half mile after that. And then after she ran the half mile, she did the same exact thing. She started crying. So there was one more run after that one, and that was the 1 mile, and we let her do that one too. She didn't actually finish the 1 mile. We didn't let her, actually. We just went about halfway, and then, well, it was maybe a quarter of the way, and then turned her around. So she ran a little over a mile yesterday, which is pretty good, I think, for a 3-year-old. But after that race, that neighborhood that does that run, they usually do some trick-or-treating with all the businesses along that street. So we also did a little bit of trick-or-treating, and then we had some dinner. So yesterday was pretty busy. Nothing is planned for today, and I'm totally fine with that. You know, I'm tired and I like relaxing, so that's good. And then tomorrow will be Halloween, so then we'll be doing some trick-or-treating. I actually use some of my leftover vacation days at work to take Monday and Tuesday off, so I get a nice long weekend. I'm hoping to have a little extra time to play some Xbox One. I hardly ever get to play video games these days, but yeah, so I hope I have some time to do that. So anyway, let's get into some vape stuff. Today, I'm in the mood to vape Paramore, and that's an e-juice from Enjoy's Artist Collection. It's a really good e-juice. I'm a big fan of all of Enjoy's stuff. This one is a mix of a combination of pear, peach, cinnamon, and custard. I use the Pairwise app on my phone to find out which beer works best for all of those flavors combined, and it came back and said you could drink ciders, red ales, and amber lagers. So I went with an amber ale, and this one is called Avalanche from Breckenridge Brewery. And I realize I have a lot of Breckenridge Brewery beers in my house, and they're not actually like one of my favorite beer companies or anything. They just, I don't know, I just happen to have a bunch of them, but they are a good company, a good brand, and I like their beers. So I have that here already poured. I have Paramore already in my RDA. This is the Sub-Zero RDA. It's built at about 0.3 ohms, and I have it on top of the Foo Hat and Mech mod. So yeah, let's give it a shot. I don't know. I can't say that these flavors go perfectly well together. I like both. Amber Ale is really good. The Breckenridge Brewery Amber Ale is really good, and Paramore is really good. I just don't get the feeling that they match perfectly, but I don't know. They do work pretty well. I think the problem is that Paramore is just so sweet. All of Enjoy's Artist Collection, at least the ones that I've tried. I haven't tried all of them, but their e-juices are really, really sweet. Sometimes to the point of being sickeningly sweet, even for me, and I love sweet e-juices. So that could be the deal here, but yeah, not bad. So I finally published my reviews for the 4 flavors from the Strawberry Queen e-juice line. You can find those on my YouTube channel if you want to watch them. If you're listening to the podcast, my channel is at youtube.com/VapePassion. And go subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber. I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler on those e-juices. So out of the 4, 3 of them are really good, but 1 of them tastes like Play-Doh. I talk a little bit about this on the blog post that I wrote for that review, but basically there's a donut flavor in concentrate that some people get a Play-Doh flavor out of. It seems that Strawberry Queen used that concentrate. Not everyone gets that flavor out of it, but I do. And one of my other friends, they got that Play-Doh flavor from it too, but 4 of my other friends didn't. They didn't taste that at all. So I think most people will like that flavor, and a small portion of people won't. Anyway, Strawberry Queen makes some really good e-juice, and I'm a big fan of them. So it's a little expensive at $20 for a 30 ml bottle, but I think they're all worth it for at least an occasional purchase. Their strawberry custard is amazing. I love that one. Okay, and then I finished my review for the S-Stock tank from Vaporesso. I've been using it pretty much daily at all times for the last couple of weeks, and I love that tank. It's a really good tank. S-Stock is spelled E-S-T-O-C if you want to look it up. I finished editing that video over the weekend, and it should be up on my YouTube channel by the time you listen to this. I'm really impressed with the tank. The flavor that I'm getting from their coils is really good. The ceramic coil has the best flavor, but it's only rated up to 30 watts. And I'm also not a big fan of ceramic coils. If you're wondering why, you can check out my episode 36 of the VapePassion show, where I talk a little bit about a small study that UL published called The Truth and Science Behind Ceramic Coils. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of ceramic. Okay, so back to the S-Stock tank. It also comes with a 0.4 ohm cotton coil, which is rated up to 50 watts. That's more my style of vaping because I like hotter vapor. And the flavor from the cotton coil it's not as good as the ceramic, but it's still pretty good. And one of the biggest pros of the S-Stock tank is that it's leak proof. I haven't had any issues at all with leaking, even after leaving it on its side overnight. It's a really nice tank and I'm loving it, so thanks to heavengifts.com for sending that to me for review. You can get that from them for $19, so it's pretty affordable. That's $1 less than a 30 ml bottle of Strawberry Queen, so yeah, pretty crazy that you can get tanks for so cheap these days. Oh, and if you go to my website, you'll find a banner on the left side of the site that has a 10% off code for Heaven Gifts, so go check them out. Okay, and then I received an email from a person named Casey, and he wanted my thoughts on mech mods. So I've already responded to his email, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it on this show too, with some additional thoughts that I didn't think of mentioning in my response to him. But so he mentioned that he started on regulated devices and then shifted over to using mechanical mods about 80% of the time. Now more than ever, he thinks that the idea of a good, fully mechanical mod is great to have in anyone's rotation because there's little to no possibility of a mechanical failure, aside from battery misuse. He also mentioned that he's not a big fan of unregulated boxes, such as the Hexome, because it has wired connections, which means it's not fully mechanical, and that could increase the possibility of a mechanical failure over time compared to a fully mechanical mod. So here are my thoughts on that. I go through phases where I like using mechs, but I always come back to regulated devices just because they're so easy to use. I totally agree with Casey that having a good fully mechanical mod is a smart idea due to the lack of potential for mechanical failure. The only things that I can think of that might fail is that the button can wear down, and the spring might break if you have a mech mod that uses a spring. And I suppose contacts can wear down too. Mechanical mods are the most sturdy and long-lasting devices you can buy, but they aren't immune to failure. I'm also in agreement with Casey's take on unregulated devices that have wires, at least as far as the potential longevity of a device goes. I don't own anything like a Hexome, but they seem pretty cool and I'd be happy to own one. But if I was ever in a situation where I could only have one device for the rest of my life, I would definitely pick a fully mechanical mod because it would be the most likely to last my whole lifetime. Honestly, I'm not much of an expert when it comes to mech mods. I own and use them on occasion. I feel very comfortable with battery safety, and I feel comfortable using them for the most part, but I don't think that I'm in the advanced category of mech users. I feel like there's just too much room for error in mech mods. For example, a bad connection on the atomizer that could cause a short, the firing button getting stuck and auto-firing, or having a battery failure on a battery that seems perfectly healthy. Those cases, they're not common, but they do happen, and in my opinion are more likely to happen with a mech mod. I know that there are a lot of people who feel much more comfortable using mechs than I do, and I think that's fine. I'm not trying to say that mechs are dangerous for everyone. It has more to do with me, personally. I just worry that I might make a mistake, and that's why I usually use regulated devices. I think mechs are fun to use, though. I'll get a mech out maybe every couple of months and use it for a while, then go back to using a regulated device after I get tired of it. And that's actually why I'm using a mech today, just because this email, it kind of just made me pull out a mech again. So what do you guys think about mech mods? Have you used them? If not, do you plan to ever use them? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, now let's talk about some stuff regarding the election. So as you're well aware, the big election takes place on November 8th. That's just a week away from the time you listen to this episode. So this is my last chance to talk about things that might affect how you vote. I'm not going to talk about Hillary or Trump. There's plenty of news about that already out there that you can make your own decision on that. Instead, I'm going to talk about a few major ballot initiatives that can negatively impact the vaping industry. In particular, 4 states have initiatives: California, Colorado, Missouri, and North Dakota. So if you live in any of those places, listen close. So in California, the big one is Prop 56. That's the California Tobacco Tax Act of 2016, and it will increase taxes on tobacco products by nearly 70%. Since our government has decided to classify electronic cigarettes as tobacco products, they will be subject to this tax. that would only be $2 per pack of cigarettes. But a $20 bottle of e-juice would now cost $30 after that tax goes into place. And from what I understand, if that bill is passed, or that proposition is passed, those taxes take place immediately. If you live in California and you want vaping to remain accessible and affordable, vote no on Prop 56. If you live in North Dakota, consider voting no on Initiated Statutory Measure 4, which would increase taxes by 56% for wholesale. This tax is estimated to have a 400% increase on the final cost of vaping products that consumers will have to pay for their products. So this one is likely to put a lot of vape shops out of business. If you live in Colorado, which is where I live, the one to look out for is Amendment 72. The Right to Be Smoke-Free Tour actually just came through Colorado to recommend voting no on this one. So Amendment 72, it's only focused on actual tobacco, not electronic cigarette products, but the language of that amendment leaves interpretation open to eventually applying to vaping. This amendment would triple the excise tax on tobacco and increase the wholesale tax by 62%. So yeah, that's pretty huge. And finally, if you live in Missouri, vapers are being recommended to vote no on Proposition A. This would increase state taxes by 5%. Like Colorado, Proposition A is only currently focusing on actual tobacco products and not electronic cigarettes, but it could easily be interpreted to include electronic cigarettes in the future. So there you go. If you live in one of those states and you haven't voted yet, think twice about voting yes on any of those ballot initiatives. And the same goes if you're the type of person who doesn't plan to vote. I've been hearing a lot of people not wanting to vote because, this election has just been so crazy and people don't want any part of it. So there are people out there like that too. And if that's you, you don't have to vote on everything on the ballot if you don't want to. But a vote against one of these initiatives could really make a big difference in what you'll be paying for vaping products in the future. So if you're one of those people who hasn't voted yet or doesn't plan to vote, at least consider voting against one of those initiatives. All right, now let's talk about some products. Let's talk about the PAX Juul. That's a pod-based electronic cigarette. It's a really popular electronic cigarette, and I don't own one, but I do want to buy one eventually. Everyone who owns them loves them. Even people who are like hobbyist vapors who vape really high wattages. The PAX Juul is more designed for smokers, I think, moving over to vaping, but everyone still loves them, no matter what level you are. And anyway, the PAX Juul is it's gotten so popular that it's gotten to the point where replacement pods are getting really hard to find. And PAX, they haven't been able to meet the demand, and supply has been low for those pods. And because of this, some shops, such as in New York, are price gouging customers who are looking for these pods, and they're price gouging by as much as 88%. These pods aren't cheap, even at suggested retail value. For example, a 4-pack is supposed to cost $16, and places are jacking prices up to about $30, so almost double. PAX Labs, they've decided to do something about the problem, finally. Rather than going after scalpers, they plan to double monthly production of the pods. That means 2 million Juul pods per month, and they hope to get up to producing 5 million per month by January. So that's good news for any of you out there who own a PAX Juul. And as soon as all of this extra production starts to saturate the market, price gouging should slow down and eventually end. All right, now let's talk a little bit about some research. So I saw an article about a press release, I think it was. A Minnesota state fire marshal is suggesting that fire deaths are down as more people start to vape. So Minnesota had a total of 24 fire-related deaths this year, compared to 49 at the same time last year. According to the Minnesota State Fire Marshal, Bruce West, fire-related deaths in Minnesota were much higher in 2015 than the previous 2 years, but this year, in 2016, they've seen a drastic reduction in fire deaths. Bruce West, he stated that the number one cause of fire-related deaths continue to be careless smoking, and he also said that people either quitting smoking or moving to vaping could be one of the underlying reductions of fire deaths this year. So how cool is that? It would be really awesome if fire safety experts talked more about reducing risks of fire by getting smokers to switch to vaping. And I wonder what the statistics would be for fire-related deaths in other states, especially in states or cities that have really large populations of electronic cigarette users. All right, and then in some other news, the London Times newspaper is being sued by anti-smoking experts for defamation. So on October 4th, the times.co.uk published an article written by Katie Gibbons titled "Tobacco Giants Fund Vaping Studies." In this article, Gibbons stated that according to Cancer Research UK, which is a major charity, that at least 6 academics within the electronic cigarette research community had accepted funding from the tobacco industry. She also stated that since 2013, at least a dozen scientific papers published in leading academic journals have been written by employees of tobacco-owned e-cigarette companies. That article originally stated that there were 7 academics that had been funded, that 7th person being Clive Bates. Clive Bates, he's a well-known pro-vaping advocate and the former head of Action on Smoking and Health organization. So after he made a complaint, they later published a detailed apology and updated the original story. Now they've taken that article down entirely, most likely due to the fact that other scientists accused in that story are now complaining and have hired libel lawyers to sue the newspaper. And, interestingly, Cancer Research UK has refused to admit the claims from Gibbons that they made these statements. So the scientists accused in this story, they've hired the law firm Lewis Silkin to sue the Times for defamation. Their story wrongly accused these experts of taking money from tobacco companies. And while the newspaper apologized to Bates, they did not apologize to the other researchers. So these researchers, they've dedicated their lives to helping reduce death caused by combustible smoking. They're some of the world's best-known experts on tobacco harm reduction, and because of this story, their character and their reputations are now on the line. One of the professors accused in the story, Professor Carl Fagerstrom, hasn't even ever done research on electronic cigarettes, but for some reason this article implicated him. The story was clearly not well researched before being published, because if it had been, they would have found that at least one of these experts that they defamed, Professor David Sweaner, he's a respected public health expert, a veteran anti-smoking activist, and has even sued the tobacco industry successful many times. So if the paper had done any research, they would have known better than to name Sweaner in this article. It looks like the Times is going to pay for this one. All right, now let's talk a little bit about some drama in the vape community. There always seems to be a little bit of drama. This one looks like it's pretty big. So I heard about this originally in a few comments on the Vape Team's Facebook page, and I wasn't even going to talk about it because I really hate to drag someone's name through the mud based on something I don't know a whole lot about. But then I watched a video from Phenom Vapes on his YouTube channel about what happened, and he was very transparent and clear about what happened. So basically, Dirty DeVoe, a well-known vape reviewer, he was an admin over at My Vaporium, and he stole nearly all of the money that the vape community has donated to their site over the last year. He pulled it out of their PayPal account. So back in August, the site went down for a day. Phenom was messaged by someone about it, and at that time, Phenom, he didn't play much of a role in how the site operated, so he didn't have any logins for any of their accounts. He knew that Dirty did, so he reached out to Dirty and asked him to get the logins and fix the site. Fast forward a little bit of time, the site gets back online. Phenom starts playing a large role in how the site operates. He has changed the My Vaporium admin email to his own so he can get notifications of new user registrations and all that stuff. So then in the week of September 26th, he starts getting notifications that payments had been declined. He asks Dirty to look into it, and Dirty explains that PayPal must be having issues. He says he'll look into it, and the following week, on October 4th, Phenom gets another email saying that payment has been declined, and he follows up with Dirty again. At this point, he starts getting suspicious, and he starts to put the pieces together. He remembered that before the site went down, Dirty had told him that the PayPal account only had about $400 in it. This didn't make any sense because they've been taking donations for over a year now, and many vendors and members pay monthly. It just doesn't make sense to have only $400 in there. He mentions this to Dirty and tells him that he needs Dirty to give him the login to the PayPal because he wants to audit it. So Dirty responds telling him that they haven't been getting payments from some vendors lately and that they didn't make money on their 1-year anniversary fundraiser. Dirty is pretty much trying to avoid giving up the login at this point. And then he tells Phenom that he'll send the login later that day. And of course, later that day, he didn't send it. So Phenom follows up again the next day, and Dirty finally sends it. But it turns out that it wasn't the correct login. So Phenom is getting pretty upset at this point. He tries to log into the My Vaporium Gmail account and finds that the account was deleted. He decides to donate to the My Vaporium PayPal and see what email address the PayPal account had on file. When he clicked the donate button, it tells him that the PayPal account had been closed. So he sends some of these screenshots to Dirty and tells him he needs to know what's happening. So Dirty sends him an email back acting like he's surprised. Then Dirty says that the former site owner, Raina, had a previous drug addiction and is in rehab, and that she had drained the account once before to feed her drug habit. So Phenom, he doesn't believe a word of it and tells Dirty directly that he doesn't believe him. And the communication pretty much stopped after that. So this is the latest anyone knows about what's happening right now, as far as I know. Dirty hasn't responded, and he's not publishing any videos on his YouTube channel since then. And everyone is pretty sure that Dirty is the one who stole the money. So Phenom believes that there were several $1,000s that were stolen from the account. This is the last thing that anyone would have expected from such a big influencer in the community. Someone who the vape community really trusted. He had considered getting legal help to fight against Dirty and get that money back, but then he decided against it because he doesn't want to be the one to hurt someone who might be having a really hard time financially, which, appears to be the case. If Dirty's willing to do something like that to steal all that money, he must be going through something. Even though Dirty did something really wrong here, at this point they're just deciding against legal action. So Phenom has turned off donations entirely on My Vaporium. He's turned off all vendor accounts and will no longer accept donations from anyone. He doesn't want this site to be manipulated by outside influences such as money. So that is that part. Then the drama takes another turn, also in regards to My Vaporium. So Phenom decides to confide in the other admins at My Vaporium. That would be Daniel, DJLSB, Fluffy, and I didn't catch that other name. I think he said Aid. I don't know for sure. So at this point, Fluffy starts to talk about how he wants to take over the website. Fluffy also starts talking about how the admins should be getting compensated for the work they put into the site. Phenom disagrees. A few days pass, and then they have a meeting together, and Fluffy brings it up again. More time passes, and Fluffy posts a goodbye post on My Vaporium, saying that he's created a new website to compete with My Vaporium, which isn't a big problem, but except that he announced this while everyone was worried about what was happening on My Vaporium in regards to that PayPal theft. So basically, Fluffy was trying to capitalize on the fact that the community was concerned about My Vaporium. He was trying to take members away and individuals and vendors from My Vaporium and bring them to his site. So yeah, everyone is really upset with both Dirty and Fluffy right now. They've both pretty much been ostracized for this, and yeah, I don't even know what Fluffy's website is. No one's talking about it. I'm guessing that Fluffy is pretty much going to fail here. It looks like Dirty and Fluffy, they're both just terrible people. Fluffy for sure, and I guess this isn't new with Fluffy according to what Phenom and other people are saying about him. But as for Dirty, I still can't say that there's enough information about what happened, at least not according to Phenom's video. He sounded pretty sure that Dirty had stolen that money, but from what he said, I just don't really, it's not really clear to me that it proves that Dirty did it. But yeah, everyone seems to believe that he did. Now I know that a lot of people probably have no idea who any of these people are or even what My Vaporium is, but there are a lot of people who do. So I thought I should talk about it for anyone who's interested. Okay, and that's all I have for this week. So you'll find the show notes for this episode on VapePassion.com. Just do a search for episode 40. If you want to support the show, consider donating to my Patreon page at patreon.com/VapePassion. You can follow me on Twitter at VapePassion. I'm also on Facebook. If you like this weekly show, please consider giving me a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. You can also subscribe to the podcast version of the show on either iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me anytime at alex@vapepassion.com. All right, I'll see you next week.